Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Stoner Society where we dive into the ever growing cannabis culture and industry insights and some making waves in the cannabis community. I'm your host, Kat Henson. We're back to have our taste buds reimagined. So, joining me is our special, most incredible and talented guest, Rihanna, also known as Kokajin, a cannabis pastry chef that blends their love for cooking and cannabis into the most delicious and inventive edibles I've ever seen. So, they're going to share with us their passion for education with creative and yummy infusions with simplified recipes that we all can probably follow at home. So grab your snacks, get comfy, join us as we delight in all things cannabis cooking. Take the stage. Hello, let them know a little bit about you and your followers and the delicious yummy things that you make.
First, thank you so much for that introduction. I don't know who the hell you were talking about. That could not have been me, but I'll take it. So yeah, I am Kokajin. Oh, well, my name is Rihanna, but also known as Kokajin, the professional weed chef. I am based in New York. I basically work out of the cafe Treehouse Cafe, making as you said, really inventive treats and little pastries because my big philosophy is we've had such bad edibles in the beginning when we were all in hiding trying to have a grand ass time. And I think we
Right?
all deserve something better. Why did we have to suffer with box mix? I mean, I get it. It's fine. But after that history, and then also considering just the social aspect of how cannabis is perceived by society, both like in the United States and in other countries, but also that kind of idea, the level of not litigation, but people being arrested for it and where it's like
Yeah.
ridiculous. And now they should be
There's
able to come out.
things.
Yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
layers to it that I feel like these edibles need to be the best of the best for my old potheads, my new potheads. We deserve nice things. It's 2024.
And some of the pastries, I was just like, if only I had the time to make butter. If only I had the
Butter
time to
is a
make butter.
lot. It takes a long time to
Yes.
make some
Like
butter.
the
I know.
process of it. But I remember, like, do you remember your very first edible? Mine was like the old fashioned chocolate brownie that really tasted like the plant. And I was
I
like,
remember.
why are we eating these?
Why? I'll share my first edible experience. And it's funny, it started, I think I knew I was part of me probably knew I was going to be in this industry before I even recognized it, but it's been placing me there. So my first edible, I was with a friend and we made, I think it was a Betty Crocker box mix. I had no idea. Just started smoking weed. I was 19 years old. I didn't know what the hoot and hollering was going on. And we made this butter. I remember we put about 7 grams in one stick. And I don't know why we thought that was a good idea for me as a beginner. I had never had an edible in my life. So we cut from the center of the pan because it's fresh out of the oven. And when I tell you, I thought I was going to die. I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. I was just sediment. I was just completely sedentary. And I remember looking over at my friend and I'm like, hey, so like, are you okay? And he wasn't moving. And I'm like, oh no, you've been smoking for like 3 years already. And if you look like that, I'm going to be dying.
I'm gonna
So
die. Oh,
yeah, I threw
that's
up. I walked
crazy.
like a drunk person. It's not good. And that's actually a part of why I feel really passionate about what I do and teaching everyone through my platform is like, I don't want anybody to feel that bad because it really does create this traumatic experience for the user. That doesn't have to happen. It's a
Yeah, and
completely
what I
avoidable
love
thing.
what I love about your platform is that yes, you teach us the simple and recipes step by step that we can do at home, but also you integrate doses education, which like makes the overall experience. So dosing edibles can be tricky. So can you walk us through the process to like determining like the perfect amount? What factors go into
Absolutely.
like safe and enjoyable experience for everyone?
So, I will say that because the information went from being like underground, illegal, like in the before times when we couldn't really access it freely, to now
Our prohibition
super legal.
era.
Everyone's mother's trying to get into it. The
Yeah.
information doesn't really. The information is very decentralized. So I don't like to say like my information is the end all be all, but it is just
So it's
like
like
a
a lot of
general.
trial and error.
Yeah,
Trial and
kind
error.
of. I mean, so I did.
So you have
I
to.
had. Sorry, I had a really good opportunity to take a course offered by the American Culinary Federation through Kingsburg Community College, and they do teach you how to do dosaging. So
Oh, that's
that's
neat.
kind yeah. It's New York has got it's CUNY, especially Kingsburg Community College, and I'm glad to be
Yes,
working with them.
but the cannabis industry in New York has is very evolving. It interests me greatly, and there's a lot of more community based in it, and that's what I love about the scene out there. It's just it's a nice vibe.
It's beautiful. And I do recall I need to get back to the dosing, but I will touch upon that and say that my experience within the cannabis community in New York is very, I agree, it's very small. Everyone kind of knows what everyone else is doing, which I think is really nice. And we're all very supportive of each other, which I don't see in other industries. Ever. Like I've never seen anything grow like this. Like I'll be like I'm wearing a shirt by this brand called Raquel's Room. I know Raquel personally. It's a sick little shirt. It's like grower hour shower, but she has involvement in like cultivation education and just lifestyle things. So we're all trying to make sure we're giving out proper logical info that's backed with at least a little bit of research that's available. Which brings me back to dosing. Now, dosing your edibles is I tell everyone like I've got two brain cells, they work in shifts, like when one's on, one's off. So I'm not always the best at math. I really only know how to do tip math and drug math. So when you're thinking about your edibles, I want to just start by saying I am lucky to have the privilege of knowing what my percentages of my THC is going to be, like how much THC, how much CBD components are in my flower. Not everyone has that, which is why I'm always like, if you can find out what strain you have, just like basic, I like to use leafly.com or like any kind of general aggregate website that gives information about various strains. Because they also, if you have like white cherry gelato, you can get like a general average of what THC
Average,
percentage that
yeah.
might be
What the strain is, the baseline of the
based on what you guys said. Yeah, so I
uh-huh.
always like to say make sure so first of all, when it comes to dosing, make sure you're getting your cannabis from a trusted source, whether it's a guy you've been getting your stuff with for 10 years or a actual dispensary, which I've had I've had mixed situations, actual legal dispensaries, great. Some little mom and pop shops, less
Not so
knowledgeable
great. Yeah.
about their stuff. I don't like to knock it because it's still great here. But that's always step one. And then after that, it's always good to kind of recognize, I think, what your consumption audience is going to be. So, for example, a lot of new cannabis users are coming through trying it through edibles. And a lot of people think they hear 100 milligrams or 50 milligrams, and they're like, I don't know what that means. When
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the
That
worst
was
thing.
my
That's
pet in
when
the very
everything goes
beginning.
down.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
when everything can go downhill. So I always like to say, with my never had edibles before, you're going to want to stay between like the 2 to 5, maybe 10, depending on your metabolism. And the way you do that is this. So you basically need to convert the percentage of THC into from basically grams to milligrams. So if I have like a gram of THC at 25%, I got to multiply that 25% by 1,000. That gives me the 250 milligrams of THC. I did that off the top of my head. That could be wrong, but you definitely need to convert. I can't do the whole thing
But
in
it's a
parts,
prime
but
example of the conversion, though. It's a great example of the conversion.
exactly.
Yeah.
So so now after you've converted your THC percentage from your grams to milligrams, you're going to want to figure out how to get that into your base. So that could be butter, that could be olive oil, coconut oil, vegetable shortening, honey, agave, sugar. There's so many ways you can infuse things.
So, like,
So
to make the ultimate edible, like, what do you keep in mind? Like, what really stands out is like the texture, the dosage. Like, is it a perfect blend of both, like depending on what you're gonna make?
Yeah, I like to, whoops, I fell. I like to make sure that the flavors of both the cannabis and the flavor of the pastry itself are somehow complementary and that you're not just eating straight bud. That's not always, some people like that. A majority of folks don't. They feel like that's a really off putting taste, and sometimes it really fucking is. So, what I like, and you can do that in a couple different ways. You don't have to always put your cannabis all in one. So, if I have a recipe that calls for, say, 226 grams of butter, that's about a typical American cup in American measurements. I could do 113 grams of infused butter and the last 113 non-infused. That can help me both cut my potency, that changes the flavor to be a little more natural tasting. And if I have, say, if I'm cooking for a party, at least I have something that is a little bit cut and can appeal to everybody at the same time.
Yeah, also the longevity of the high kind of in a like a social setting would be more highlighted because they're like, all right, we ate, we had a couple other things, we now we have the whatever infused treat we got, and we're just all gonna have a nice vibe. It's kind of like your little
Exactly.
like. It's kind of like that when the hotels put the little chocolate on your pillow. That's kind of like what you want at
Exactly.
the end of the night. Uh,
Yeah. And when it comes to like it, I always have to think about like my setting for these things. So like when I cook out of Treehouse Cafe, I like to do a range of different milligram strengths because I get a range of different customers. So for example, this month I made a lemon hibiscus curd cup, vegan, gluten free, and I made that at like 25 milligrams because we're starting to have a lot more people come in at the lower dosages, and we want to make sure that they're not seeing Elvis in their fridge when they take it home. But then we
yeah,
also have, you know, that's scary as shit. But then on the
but it
converse side,
also what the work you guys do there in the shop, you're cultivating the community in that space. And I love it because it's like you'll have new customers come in and they'll probably know nothing about having an edible, and you kind of walk them through. Okay, well, we have this friend. I remember I had a friend and we went to the dispensary once, and she's like, we're gonna get one of these. It's not your grandma's like edible you make at home. She's like, you're gonna, and I like, she gave me a fourth of it. I'm like, well, why can't I have the whole cookie? She goes, you don't want the whole cookie. You can have a fourth of it and see how you feel. But like, you get to educate them and walk them through, and then the next time they go back, they're like, that was really great. What else can I want this kind of thing. So I love that. That's that, cultivating of connections within the community.
yeah, it's so important to me that well, because the neighborhood we have our shop in is it's in Inwood. It's very very like tightly knit community and respect. Like I'm from Brooklyn, I didn't even know that this place existed. It's a beautiful area, and the people that we serve like are all lovely, and I'm shouting them out because some of them do follow me, and I'm just like, I love you guys, like it's really huge support. But it is so important to me that I think this comes from my past of working in like hospitality generally, but like these people aren't just customers to me, they're clients. They like come back, they all have their own individual tastes, they have their own flavor profiles, allergies I need to be aware of. And I always want to make sure that every single time they come in here, they're leaving with something that isn't going to make them feel overwhelmed, is at the proper level. They know what to expect, how to dose it, because it's a two ways. On one hand, I know I've given them all the information that I possibly could, and on the other hand, it definitely guarantees them to feel like more comfortable because there's an overarching concept of the type of individual that consumes cannabis, and on one at like across the board that concept is deeply just messed up. Like that's not it's almost like border I almost sometimes feel like it's borderline racist, but people have this idea that it's just for like grungy folks and not for, like, oh, it just makes you lazy,
Yeah.
when it's like, no, yeah, it's not. It's definitely more, we're trying to make it less of just like a an underground kind of like, ooh, back in the day this was bad and now it's good. It's like, no, this is a plant. It helps with anxiety. It helps people sleep. Some people who may have like some kind of like chronic illness may want to have a little pastry and call it a night. Like it's a well-rounded plant, which I'm grateful to work with.
Yeah, I feel the same way with our stoner society community. I've had this podcast for a year, and I've really delved into this space, and I really felt the love and vibe. Like anybody you meet in the cannabis industry, their wins are yours and yours are theirs. And I love that we just come together, and it's just because we love the plant and we like to educate and we like to be around. I have grown this in a year. So I have like 6,000 little stoner society members that
That's
have
a
really stuck
lot.
with me. Yes. And then I
Like if
am
6,000
so
people rolled
grateful
through,
for, yeah, I am so grateful for them, and they come back every week, and we highlight different things in the industry, and I like to bring them people that they just might not have ever thought of, and they're like, oh my god, that I never would have thought to have, and someone who thinks I like to highlight different cannabis jobs and things like that. So because it's one of the things I feel very passionate about, that when people think of the cannabis industry, they think of just, the retail end of it or the cultivation side of it, and they don't see the actual communal side of it. And that's the real root of the movement, I
yeah,
feel.
I agree. I agree. Before I worked in cannabis, I did very corporate jobs. I used to sell cars. I used to work in recruiting, and just before I became a baker, I was working within the shelter system as a project manager. And the when I think of the various communities, even within those companies compared to outside, and I think of how easy it is for me to go to, say, a cannabis event, where I meet all the other folks, and it's just the level of desire to collaborate within is so strong. And I have to be fully transparent, like before I had I've been baking for about 2 years, doing that like professionally out of baking for 2 years, and just baking throughout my life for more than 10. I don't want to give away my age too much. I already did a couple times when I said I didn't know Audrey wasn't that so Raven. But when I just like think about how quickly, like it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And knowing that there are so many people that are still growing, but like growing, and I just kind of suddenly hit that, it just
Yeah.
makes me feel even more empowered to show, like, look at this small group, they're doing crazy things. Like, look at this other, like, I know a brand called Berlixi, and it's a woman named Brianna, and she's a food scientist, and she makes this nano infused THC powder, and it's low dose, and it like,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's amazing. I was her biggest fan before she even realized I was her biggest fan. But it's things like that and interactions like that. And she's like, oh, well, when this all happened, she's like, oh, let's collaborate. Let's like do something. And I'm like, absolutely. Cause I would love to show that there's so much going on in ways people don't even conceptualize. And I
Yeah.
guess I'm stuck on Berlix because it's a nano powder with no flavor, and like it can do doses as low as 5 milligrams. It's wonderful for my mom.
And it's very easy with the product. It would be very easy for a beginner to make their own treats at home. It's just like if you didn't want to
Exactly.
make the, yeah. So and you can kind of get creative with it in a sense. So can you like walk us through a typical day in your kitchen? Like, what do you just go through the flow, like your workflow, or just do you
Yeah,
come in and you are inspired and you're just like think, or like do customers come to you and you're like, can you make this? And like, I've never tried to, but it's gonna be fun to try. Like, can you walk us through a typical, day to day,
absolutely.
or is
So, yeah, so my days usually start anywhere between Like if like in terms of like arriving in a shop, anywhere between like 7:30 and 8:30, depending on what needs to be made that day. Um, I always set my menus monthly, so we do basically do a monthly menu of 13 to 15 options that I and my executive chef like come up with, or basically how this and how that works is I come up with some really regular ideas, and then I come up with some crazy unhinged ideas, and I see what I can slide by. And if I get one, if I get one of those, it's already great. So
But see, but that also fuels your creativity, which is
absolutely,
great because I've seen some of your recipes and I'm like, I would have never thought to put weed in that, but that
yeah,
sounds lovely.
I'll
Like,
put weed in anything. Whatever
yes.
I
See,
can.
for me, I prefer flour. I like for me like it's the ritual sense of like sitting down, having a sesh, rolling the paper. My husband doesn't like to congest that way, so edibles has been his thing, and he's like he sends me recipes, and that's how he sent me a lot of your recipes, and I was like, oh well, then let me see who this person really is, and I was like, he goes, can we make this? Like, how do you make this? He go on, and he had bugged me for a week. He's like, can you, are you gonna make butter? Like, we can make butter, right?
Oh
And I
my
was,
gosh.
and
Well,
it was cool. It was
respectfully,
yeah,
okay, because I'm like, he can make it too. He has the video. He
yeah.
should be making this
Yeah,
video.
he can make his own butter, but it was just something for him when we first began our relationship. He had a lot of perception of weed is weird, it's bad. Why are you smoking it? You're just it's a bad stigmatization of it. And then
Yeah.
when I had really bad postpartum depression, and
Mm-hmm.
I he I couldn't get out of it, and one day he told me he's like, why don't you just go smoke some weed? And I was like, you made me quit like a couple years back. Like, he goes, well, let's see how it goes. And sure enough, I'm like, all right,
Sure
cool.
enough, sometimes it just takes the edge off.
Just the edge off or whatever. But also, I've learned to treat it with my mental health and other ways. But I've also learned that like the plant, I love it because he'll eat his edible, he'll have his gummies, and we do this. He's like, because we have small children, so we kind of digi
Ooh.
dodge.
Yeah, you gotta be
I was
careful.
Yes, so I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and he's like, all right, don't take too long. So I'm gonna go have smoke. I'm gonna go smoke. I'm gonna have a quick little session myself for like a good like 2 3 minutes. When I come back out, he's gonna come back in here. He's gonna eat his edible, and sit here for a little minute and let it like settle
Let it
in, and
download.
then yeah, let it download, and then we're gonna go back out there, and we're just gonna be like, all right, what are we watching on TV? Like, but I love that he's been able to really like get more invested in all of the other things that are more related to cannabis, and he doesn't see it as like something icky. The the and he likes he's a foodie, so it's comes to
It all
he
works
always
out.
asks me questions, and it's always intriguing to have that like open dialogue. I bet you get some interesting experiences from people who've tried your creations. So, can you share like a memorable moment or some feedback that really stuck with you?
I got one. Let me tell you what happened with my bandmate when he tried to eat my edibles and I told him not to.
No.
Yeah. So,
So that did that make tour interesting this time around?
it was interesting. It was interesting. So, back when, well, there's two of them, but back in the day, not back in the day, but when we were first starting, my bandmate is basically a college professor, brilliant man, has 5 tips hero. But what happened was, we had flown up to St. Louis because he had had a paperback version of his book be released, and he was going to do a rock and read at a local bar in St. Louis because that's where he teaches. And he invites us all out to perform and hang. So I asked him,
Yeah.
like, a couple of my bandmates, at the time they consume, and I was like, oh, like, should I bring something? Like, I can make edibles. Like, this is before I even, phew, pardon me. Yes. Before I actually started, like, it was a bakery. So I was like semi-professional, just running my own micro business. And I was like, should I make some cookies? Like, just for whenever, like, me and the homeboy like to eat it. Jared doesn't smoke. Jared doesn't drink. He's just living on seltzer and high on life, like bless him. So he's like, yeah, bake them and we'll have a lot of downtime and you guys can just eat it and I'll just hang. So let them be cool. I baked the cookies at a lesser potency. Which I do know. So I want to say these cookies have to be anywhere between like 50 to 75 milligrams or so. And like,
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
But like someone who didn't know that the cookies were the other cookies,
Yeah.
and you would have like 5 of those. I made that
Yeah.
mistake one time.
No. So here's what he did. So we get there. I show him the cookie box. So I'm very much person. I'm not going to be that person that says like, oh, just have this, like half the price, it's edible. Like, no, it's like, signed.
Oh, I hate those. I
I
hate
know,
those
the crazy.
experiences.
But I go to Chia, I'm like, my friend, look, these are the cookies. They don't look like them, like they're green. Please don't touch them. I'm putting them on your empty counter where you don't even have food. These are not cookies for you. Don't eat the cookie. I had a cookie. My friend, our other bandmate had a cookie. We're fine. We're having a grand old time. We go out, we get dinner, we come home, we're going to sleep. Here's a night person, so he's still up so while we're sleeping. So he goes into his kitchen, he sees the cookies on the counter, he's like, why haven't I tried Rihanna's cookies yet? So that was at, and I'm thinking of the time. So that was maybe at like midnight. And then he tells me, because I had to find out the next day. So he apparently at 2 a.m. sat up awake and thought he had COVID because he had never been high. So he said, oh, he's like, oh my God, what is wrong? I have COVID. I have to have COVID. This must be it. So I've never had it before and I don't know what it feels like. And I have my 2 bandmates here and I'm going to give them COVID. So he's texting his family group chat. He's texting the band group chat. He's texting me. And I remember very distinctly because I saw this message at 7 o'clock in the morning that I had such a panic. And I read the message and it says, Rihanna, 8-week cookies, forgot. I'm sorry. I'm a moron. But also helps. And now I'm
So
waiting
that means
outside.
he didn't just eat one cookie. Like if
He
he ate
had
one
the
cookie,
cookie.
he
He ate a perfect half of a cookie. So maybe like 25 or so, maybe 25, 30 milligrams. Not a serving that someone who's never had beef should have. So when I finally get up and I'm like knocking on his, I didn't knock, I just kind of waited and like sit for
You're
him
like,
to come out.
so we discussed the cookies beforehand.
So here's the best part. I'm waiting outside his room, and he knows that I'm waiting outside his room for him to come outside. He's so high that his brain is like, if I go out, he's trying to like telepathically tell me they have to come in. So we finally realize he's out. He can't walk, and he tells me it just feels like my whole body is underwater. And then he's in a chair, he's just like, and kind of like half passes out. And I'm like, oh my God, you get to perform in 8 hours. Like, what's gonna happen? So when I had the other half of the cookie because I'm chaotic and I finally felt the effect, I just started to laugh. It felt like the bitch said I had this one. Yeah. So moral of the story is he never had it again. He listens to me when I tell him don't eat anything that I say not to eat. And I'm sorry, I'm a moron also help became one of the song titles, one of our latest EPs.
Look, full circle moment.
It's like a full
Chef's kiss.
circle.
Chef's
Yeah.
kiss. Yep.
Inspiration.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. He did say the cookie tasted good. So I'll take that. It happens that exact. But normally, a lot of my folks, which makes, or I feel weird saying that, like, everyone says, like, oh, it's so good. Like, everyone says my things are good, and I appreciate that. But I'm always trying to be better. I actually had a client who, and I'm so grateful about this because it always makes me feel better. Because I didn't go to culinary school or no shit. I just went to Google Academy and YouTube University. So
YouTube University, we all have been to YouTube University. How do you think I've made this happen?
Exactly. The one time my brain cells work together. So
it's the one time my productiveness became I smoke to be for productivity. People don't know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So for me, yeah. So I'm like, I know how much I can consume to be productive, and then I know how much I can consume to relax.
Exactly.
So there's just in that mindful consumption of it all.
Yeah, the balance is really hard to strike. But what gets me really grateful is like a lot, like sometimes clients, especially clients that have very specific and dietary restrictions. For example, I always have a vegan item, but gluten free, and sometimes together vegan and gluten free, just because I find that that's a lot of those folks aren't getting that access that I see, or they're just kind of limited to gummies or something. So I
Yeah.
have a client who comes in, lovely girl. She let me know that I think she said like one of my pastries, they were just a little dense, taste a little bit weedy. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you for letting me know, because as much as I appreciate people, like, I'm always glad that people enjoy what I make, but I'm also like still learning. So I always really appreciate when people are, or people feel comfortable being honest with me, because I'm not like some monolith that is the end all be all of what professional culinary cannabis should be. Like, I don't fucking know everything. And because I'm working in an industry that's so subjective, like I'm trying to serve a whole bunch of people with different flavor profiles and everything, I'm just always happy that someone's willing to say, hey, like, here's maybe how you can change this to make this texture better or anything like that.
But that's
And
wonderful feedback.
that's my,
That
yeah,
that's what's to help you thrive. So
exactly.
yeah.
And I've been
And
so
it's
glad. Yeah,
also, we go back to like YouTube University. It's that education. Cannabis
exactly.
education is not that much accessible. So
It's
you kind of
not.
like, when you dip your toes into the community, it's like a friend of a friend of a friend. Hey, and then I know this guy who has this really cool job. Like, but then you get to build those connections, and then it's just like, well, are you? I have made some wonderful connections just by passing the joint. Like
Exactly.
it's universal. And there's those that look across the room. I know you smoke, and I smoke too. We gotta go out
That
in 5 minutes.
knowing look.
Yeah, that knowing look, it's just everywhere I go. I was just like, you smoke? And I was like, yes, I smoke.
I do indeed.
And
How did you know?
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm also very grateful since I call it the great viraling, but I'm also very grateful that I've had a chance to interact with other chefs, both either within the space, but also just in the professional, like pastry space, not even just in New York, but all over the world. And every time they reach out to me, I'm like, I just know math and please show me how to make a really good, like I'm begging you. So, um,
Please.
like, please,
But
please,
I
I'm
just,
begging. So
please.
it's just really good to
And,
be able, yeah. So I was sorry,
have
I was just
you
saying it's
had
really good to learn and have
chances?
access.
Yeah, have you had chances, to have those interactions where you kind of swap recipes in a sense?
Yeah, actually, so my Ultimate Bowl, which I'm hoping to start by the end of this month, is offering one-on-one like masterclass sessions. And I also want to start offering large group sessions of how to actually do the bath, walking through it step by step, kind of addressing any issues that people may have. I mean, reading in a caption is one thing and having it in front of you, fine and all, but I do also recognize some people kind of need to be walked through. From my perspective, I'm just thinking like, people are gonna do the thing, like whether we regulate it or not, and we've been doing the damn thing for decades at this point. And so if I could just give
Yeah.
people a way to do it safely, do it in a way that doesn't, scare them away from cannabis and bring us, 10 steps back, like that's my ultimate goal. So I do get a chance to swap recipes. I also have, I think the way that I even got into the space was trying to learn from another cannabis chef who not only became my boss and executive chef, but also my best friend. So, hi Donna, but very, I'm very like grateful for those moments because again, like I just want to continue to keep this community as welcoming to old folks, new folks as I possibly can. And I really want to keep that what's the word, collaborative energy where it is, because right now it's really good. And one reason why I actually have swapped other recipes with their instantaneous soul munchie, she's very cool. She makes a mean oxtail. And as a
Ooh.
Jamaican person, I can really appreciate someone putting the effort to make a really good oxtail. Other people who I've met, someone who also working on a event on for next month, the almond raw edible. And she is a queer chef that does a lot of They work with vegan food. They work with very mindful recipes. And I cannot share the secret because I promised I wouldn't, but they showed me a way to infuse flavors, like herbal flavors, into cookies I've never even thought before. And he makes beautiful cookies like chocolate chip chamomile, or he uses a lot of herbal flavors like lavender, people
Oh,
like
I
that.
bet.
Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
the pool is, even though it's like still kind of small and still like offering a homegrown feel, there's still so much to learn from everybody.
It's the
And
technique.
it's
That's
the
really what it is.
technique,
It's the
it's the
technique.
flavors. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just like hearing something from a different perspective and being like, oh shit, that's brilliant. I constantly learning, constantly encouraging others to learn, and just grateful that there are like really cool people already in the space that are willing to share such like techniques with me.
So last but not least, because we've taken so much of your wonderful time
I'm
today,
having so much fun.
but what kind of impact do you hope to make through your work in cannabis, cooking, cuisine, and education? Like, what is the end goal, the dream, in a sense?
So, wow, the dream.
I know, big questions.
I know, but it's important.
Yeah.
My ultimate dream for where I want at least the culinary cannabis aspect to be is I want it to be as accessible and widespread and held in a high regard as much as fine dining. Because when you think about it, you're not
Yes,
just,
it should.
you're, yeah, because it's beyond just putting a cookie together. It's literally doing science. Like you have to do math, you have to properly infuse butter or whatever you're using. Sometimes you have to make an infusion like sugar where you can run the risk of setting something on fire. And a lot of our
Yeah,
stuff,
because you have to break down the process of
yeah,
any infused cannabis food. Like,
everything.
and there's like a step by step techniques that goes through
Yeah,
whatever
there's a
you're putting.
absolutely. There's a way to do it right. There's a way to do it just okay, and then there's the wrong way to. Unfortunately, there is wrong ways to do it,
I'm
and
just gonna dump everything in a bowl and pray. That's
yeah,
the wrong way to
and
do it.
like nah, sure, that's a waste of money. Butter is expensive. Weed
And
is
weed.
expensive. So my ultimate goal is I just want and this is considering the fact that Black people, brown people have been sent to prison and to be over minor weed charges for decades, and it's been marginalized, affected our marginalized communities. It has touched people just to, feel so secretive, and it's really tainted like the overall view, not just like the plant, but like going forward. It's so hard to remove that stigma, and so I want both the stigmas to be removed. I want a way for everyone to feel like there's an accessible way to reach cannabis without feeling like they need to be too juggy, like they have to have a vape or they have to smoke. Like, nah, eat this cookies, 10 milligrams, cut it in half, take it
Just have a good
peacefully.
time.
Well, yeah, and just have a good time. And quite honestly, I would love to see something like I would love to one day see James Beard awarded restaurants that have cannabis because again, we have had such garbage. We have gone through so much shit just to have a relaxing day, just to maybe like take away some joint pain. It's just so I get the going back to relaxing, but there's a myriad of reasons why people consume cannabis, and very rarely is it ever like nefarious. So why can't we have it be just a beautiful fucking cake? And why can't we learn
Yeah.
how to do it? It's
Well,
accessible.
it's yeah, because I always advocate the same thing, like in motherhood. Why is it okay for you to have your glass of wine and I can't have my infused treat at the end of the day? Why let me have my gummy
Doesn't have a
and go on with
gummy.
my day? Yeah, just let me have
Yeah.
my gummy. Let
And
me eat my
sometimes
little
people,
gummy
yeah,
and go play with my kids. You go to soccer practice and drink your wine. That's cool. Then let
that's
me
what.
eat my gummy and watch my kid play soccer too. That's fine.
Exactly.
Like,
If I can see the industry be able to adjust like as many dietary restrictions as possible. Like personally, I have a stone fruit allergy, so I can't eat like apples, peaches, and pears and shit. And even though I still
oh,
cook with it, yeah, it's a nightmare. But I still cook with it, and I still try and be aware of making things you with like a low allergen content or something like that. I just want variety. I want variety. I want accessibility. I want it to not be limited to just those who can receive the education, because that's not how the industry started, and it shouldn't be how it continues. I'm not knocking anybody who wants to get that education, but I just think that accessibility and beautification are like my top things for sure. Sorry, I was that's the soapbox and the hot
No,
down from
share
it.
the dream. We all have a vision in which we would like to see the industry going, and it's changing. And now that with the reclassification of cannabis and just everything else, it opens up things to be studied medically, and it just opens up a lot more things for us, even cultivation wise. I am excited to
Exactly.
see what strains come out of it. I'm excited for new strains to be created. I'm excited for different regulations, maybe that are going to be looser in different states that
Yeah.
make it more accessible to those people in those states. We'll find out, coming this election, hopefully. But I
Thought.
stay out of that realm. Yeah, that's just a stress in a nutshell. Everyone,
Yeah, I'm just gonna pray and beg. And pray and beg and that all the things that are going on right now, which there are copious amounts, can just be mitigated.
numerous.
Another dream, but
Yeah,
separately.
yeah.
Yeah. Gracious. Well, good thing we have weed because we need to get through the election season.
Yes. And you know what? One joint at a time. One joint at a time.
One joint at a time. Gracious.
Well, that's all we have for today's session. Thank you, Kajabi, for joining us and sharing your passion about cannabis and all things edibles. And just so I'm going to link in the show notes down below for everyone to go follow you, check out your wonderful content, grab those great infused recipes.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it. Oh,
so much for being on today.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. If anyone wants, if they live out of New York City, you can catch me at Treehouse Cafe. There infrequently, but when I am there, I both look funny and up. So you can probably catch me in a conversation where I overshare. So yeah.
And if you're planning your cannabis trip to New York, put that on your little ding. I'm going to go visit.
We're a destination.
Yes,
Thank you
there you
so
go.
much. Thank you so much.